at a good singing, there's no other sound like it on earth. There's absolutely nothing like it. It's a sound of, there's no music, just pure voices. The sound of it is what first drew me in, just the power of it. It's a real raw and visceral sound, and I've heard it described a lot of times as almost a physical thing, that you could feel it. If you're standing leading a song, it's like you could almost just get up and walk on the sound of the music, almost.
In the sanctuary of the New Bethel Cumberland Presbyterian Church in Greenville, Tennessee, Andrew Whaley feels what he sings and sings what he feels. He is leading friends in a particular art older than this historic church's pre-Civil War beginning. It's folk art, history, tradition, and worship, generally known as shape note singing, old harp singing, or sacred harp singing. The music is written on the page in geometric shapes. It is interpreted in song by the human voice, which came to be called the harp by mountain folk.
We refer to our singing as old harp singings. That's generally the term that you'll hear used. Originally was devised by early composers in America as a way of writing down music so that what we would call at that time, I guess, the average person could learn how to sing four-part harmony.
In colonial America, the inability of many people to read a tune or carry a note presented a challenge to churches that believed in the power of singing.
Most people at that time were not very well educated. They didn't have opportunity for education on the frontier especially. And so oftentimes they couldn't read normal English, normal writing, as we would say, much less read music.
That changed around 1800. Composers of church hymnals and tune books created a system of simple shapes and corresponding notes. These were taken by northern pastors and settlers to untrained people on the frontier.
So they devised this way of writing down or forming a shape for each note so that a person could look at that, memorize the tone that went with that shape, and thereby, once they put that together and had the tones all set together, they could actually sing four-part harmony. So we might say it was kind of the common man's music of the day, I guess would be a good way to describe it. When I can read my title.
Even after 200 years, this common music continues to live on in regularly scheduled singings around the country, most often in the South. Now, as then, singers form a hollow square, its sides divided among altos, sopranos, tenors, and bass. Any willing singer can take his or her turn as song leader by stepping into the middle of the square.
The best sound is in the very middle of the square. So when you're leading, you get to hear it the best. That's the best experience you can have, is leading, just because you're in the middle of it all.
Old harp singings also continue the tradition of being a social event, though not to the extent it was in the days before Facebook, smartphones, and texting.
I've heard my grandparents talk about that was the boys and the girls, young folks, teenagers and a little older, enjoyed the time of year when singings would come because it was an accepted social outlet where they could go and mingle and meet each other.
Since those days, the sounds and ways of shape note singings have diminished, but not here.
So I've heard a gentleman in our singing group say before that, being typical East Tennesseans, we never throw anything away. We kind of hang on to things when we get them. It's by our nature, I guess. So it did hang on here in the mountains because of that.
In the mountains, and also in the hills and hollers around the Sevier County home of Paul Claybo. This is where Andrew Whaley's ability to sing and his love for shape note music was learned from his mother, Janet Whaley, who learned from her father, Paul Claybo, who learned from his father, 102-year-old Herbert Raymond Claybo.
I've sung all off and on, I'll put it that way, all my life. and harp singing, but I didn't own a book then.
Tedious and tasteless the hour.
Being able to learn from Mom and from Papa was something that I'll remember forever, and even the experiences I have at every singing is something that I'll remember forever.
Now, as they have done for decades, the family sings from the tune book unique to this region of the country. The New Harp of Columbia, published in 1867, is a revision of earlier popular singing books. Passed down through generations, previous printings take on the revered status of a family Bible.
I've got one from my grandpa's brother, and my dad's brother, his nephew, just a while back, said, "I thought you might want this."
Much of the power of this music is in both its history and its message.
I have a lot of respect for my history and our heritage, and I've tried to share that with my children, and they both enjoy this type of music. I like the fact that the music is not two instruments, and you can hear the harmony, and I think it's a very spiritual music.
If you just take one of the books and open it up and read some of the words, they're very poetic. A lot of the words that are in these songs are not words that we use now, but we all know what they mean.
Back at the New Bethel Church, before the poetic words are sung, each song begins with a tradition that at first sounds anything but harmonious.
We call it singing the shapes through before we actually start singing the poetry or the words to the song.
They follow the shapes and literally sing the notes of the standard 7-note scale used in their tune books.
It's kind of like playing it through on the piano one time before you sing it, as we do oftentimes as an introduction to a particular song in our churches today.
Then the singers maintain the tune while starting the words. The song leader's arm weaves a pattern through the air, beating time to the music, a gesture automatically mimicked by the others. Among aging generations of old harp singers, young people like Andrew are a welcome sight. Another much younger person is 4-year-old Elizabeth Violet Shipp, who takes it all in. She is growing up with the music she has heard since she was a baby. But to the Daniel Jang family, visiting missionaries from South Korea, old harp music is unfamiliar, yet admired.
I'm accustomed to electronic music. That is good, but sometimes it looks like electronic music is a kind of artificial. But this music is very natural and tasteful. I'm not musically talented, but in this group, all people can be conductors. It's a good part. A human voice, yeah, praise.
The human voice, the harp, reading shape notes and making music that is more than music.
I don't think that God has given me just an incredible voice, but He gave me a voice that I'm able to sing.
It is an art form rendered in audio, preserved every time people come together, open their tune books, and raise their voices.
A lot of people talk about that, how we're preserving a part of culture that has been around for literally hundreds of years. And when you think about that and you sing a song that they could have been singing the exact same way 150 years ago, we also like to say that it's certainly not a dead tradition. It's very much alive and well.